Hello. Today, I am so excited to bring you a follow up to the interview that I did a few months ago with my macro and strength training coach, Sandy Gravitt. Sandy is a coach in Faster Way to Fat Loss, which is the program that I joined 3 years ago and laid the foundation and taught me everything I know today about fat loss, building muscle, and strength training. And it's the program that I still follow to this day. Sandy has been instrumental in my journey. In fact, Faster Way is an incredible program, but the coach really will make or break your experience. And that has been the case for me and why I've seen so much success. So today I asked Sandy to come on as a follow-up to our interview a few months ago. And we talk about everything from what is the secret to fat loss to why do all diets out there work and why do people fail at them and then gain the weight back, to what does it look like to lose fat as a woman in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. We also talk about the importance of building muscle, what it takes to build muscle. Do you need to eat all this protein? About macros, about strength training, and we answer your questions.
Okay, well, I'm excited. I have Sandy Gravitt back. Sandy is my macro coach. So if you're not familiar with my journey, I had Sandy on a few months ago and you guys loved our interview. We talked about fat loss, building muscle, and today we're going to really dive deeper into that conversation because you guys have so many questions. So if you're not familiar, my journey started, I just can't believe it. It will be 3 years this coming December, which is hard to believe. And so 3 years ago, I started Faster Way to Fat Loss. I had actually joined, I share with a different coach that I had just found through social media, had success with some fat loss in the first few months. And then I quickly realized that I can't make this sustainable at the current rate with eating low calories, and I needed to figure out what to do. And that's when I found Sandy, and her expertise is really making this journey sustainable in the long run of periodizing, can't say that correctly, nutrition.
I never get that word right. I'm like,
cycling in and out of fat loss and muscle building if needed. And so 3 years now, I think that just speaks to the longevity of what you teach your clients, is the fact that here I am building a better body as I turn 40 in just a few weeks than I've ever had before, feel phenomenal. And so people, of course, have been sharing this journey on social media, and people are so interested because it feels like there's so much noise out there. And so today I thought it'd be really great to have Sandy back on to be able to really simplify, cut through all the noise out there, right? Especially as women. I feel like, Sandy, I don't know if you feel this way, but it feels like in today's world, women are marketed to more than ever before when it comes to all these strategies, and it's making people super confused. And I feel like, if anything, my journey with you and by joining Faster Way has really cut through all the noise. And I have such clarity and hope for aging and not feeling like just because the number increases, right, as far as my age, it doesn't mean the scale has to go up as far as like gaining fat in that regard or like feeling my worst. Instead, I'm really excited for the future. And I feel like not many women feel that way.
Yeah, that like hands down. I talk to women every single day and they feel the same way you did at the beginning. Like it's over or after 40, like their metabolism is broken. They're never going to have the body that they want again. It just, and the industry really plays on their emotion. And there are so many coaches out there that will tell you your metabolism is broken, your cortisol is the reason that you're not losing weight, your hormones are to blame, you're too old. There are so many people play on that emotion of aging, and it doesn't have to be that way. Like, and that's literally what I do this for, is because I started almost identical to you in the regards of I was at 38. I felt like kind of like, I had been working out and eating healthy and doing all of those things for it to be 20 years in February, I believe. And about 35, all the things that I had done literally stopped working. And I just felt like, well, I guess I just reached my peak at 35, and I'm just going to be going downhill and all of those things from here on out. And I found Faster Way. I think it was also, which is kind of funny, I am 2 weeks from my 45th birthday, and I started Fast Away on my 38th birthday. So anniversary of Fast Away, and just anniversary of 5 years, because the first 2 years I was still focused on the wrong thing, but 5 years of really focusing on the things that move the needle and the things that I really try to instill in my clients. And I will tell you, the most successful clients that I have are the ones just like you, who might not have joined for the right reason, might have joined because they wanted to lose weight, wanted to lose fat. But the most successful ones are the ones who learn all the things that they're gaining and not necessarily losing, because then you're just focused on the positive aspects of the journey, and it never just feels like there's an end date, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I was similar in the fact that I was eating healthy. I mean, I had been writing a real food, healthy, cooking, healthy living blog for, oh my gosh, a long time, 12 years,
Yeah.
13 years, right? So I had all of like the healthy eating down. I wasn't eating like a ton of crappy foods or processed foods. And yet it was the same thing, like mid 30s, all of a sudden it hit. It was kind of a mix, I think, of mid 30s and COVID all at the same time. But I suddenly couldn't figure out, like, why am I eating all this healthy, real food? And yet my face, like I could see, I've shared this before, but we recorded a video series back during COVID times. And I remember when the videographer sent me the videos to preview, I looked at myself and I was like, who is this person? Like my face was so puffy, and I would see photos of myself. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I was gaining a rapid amount of weight very quickly around my midsection, like things. And like I tell people, I was always active. I was kickboxing during this time. I was doing Pure Bar. I was paying a fortune to do Pure Bar, which is very expensive every month. Like I was not sitting on the couch, right? I was eating well, but I was so frustrated with fat loss and I couldn't figure it out. And that's when I finally joined Faster Way, because I was like, okay, like everything points to the same things as far as getting enough protein, lifting weights, moving your body, and making sure your nutrition calories are aligned with your goal. But I don't know how to do this. This is like such a big abstract ideas. And so Faster Way came in, packaged it all up, and then having a good coach is what makes or breaks the experience. And having you come alongside and be like, okay, so yeah, you've experienced fat loss. Now, how do we keep this sustainable? And that has been so powerful and empowering, and everything that's come with it, from body composition changes to food freedom to not feeling confused anymore. So I think so many women are confused, and so many women are after fat loss, kind of like why I joined in the beginning. Can you share what is the secret to fat loss? Like, how does someone lose the weight? And also, there's a lot of talk, especially like with Faster Way, and I know you talk about this a lot, the difference between, say, fat loss versus weight loss, because I think that was me. When I joined Faster Way 3 years ago, my goal was weight loss. I weighed like 145 pounds. I remember going to the doctor for my physical that year, and she's like, Kristin, you are pushing overweight limit because of how I'm very petite, short person. And so in my head, I had the number on my scale, like a number on the scale. This is what I want to lose. I want to lose like 20 pounds or whatever it is. So kind of like walk us through what is the secret to fat loss, and then why we should be focusing on the fat loss versus just the weight loss.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the simplest, nittiest, grittiest way to lose fat is being in a calorie deficit. And a lot of women think calorie deficit and they think 1,200 calories. And that's where people, especially women, can get into a mindset of watching what their calories, and then doing good at that 1,200 calories for like 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And then the weekend comes and it's quickly, they're like, oh, I've done good all week. I really want this cookie. But that cookie turns into like 2 cookies, turns into chips, and turns into all of these things where they can quickly get themselves out of that calorie deficit that they just put themselves in and worked in all week. Then they get on the scale and they're like, oh crap, I just gained 2 pounds from eating that food. You didn't gain 2 pounds. It's impossible to gain 2 pounds from eating a few cookies. You'd have to eat 3,500 calories plus your maintenance calories to gain 1 pound. So a lot of that attributes to water, to salt, to the timing that you ate that. Was that right before you went to bed and didn't move? So much comes down to actually gaining weight. And 9 times out of 10, when a woman jumps on the scale the day after she ate bad, she thinks that she gained 2 pounds. In actuality, she just is holding a little bit of water from what she ate. So calorie deficit and a slight calorie deficit is the easiest way and the only thing that you really need to do to lose fat and be able to stick to that calorie deficit long term. So longer than 5 days, where you're not starting over on Monday. You want to be able to sustain that for at least 6, 7, 10, 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is. It just really depends on where your body is and how much you have to lose, how long you need to be in that calorie deficit. And that's going back to kind of that weight loss. You can lose weight without losing fat, and you can lose fat without losing weight. And the difference is, if you just slash your calories and you lose weight on the scale drops. Most of the time, what you're actually losing is water and muscle. And when you lose muscle, you are setting yourself up for longer repercussions, for making it harder to sustain that weight that you did lose, to make it harder on yourself to actually lose fat and to keep it off. So really what you want to focus on is the way your clothes are fitting, the inches that you are losing, the way you feel in your clothes. Maybe it's even looking at pictures, and then overall being able to lose fat, and how you're going to do that. And you don't have to lose a single pound. So many times I will have a client who was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't successful because I didn't lose anything. Or, oh my gosh, this didn't work because I gained a pound. And then you put pictures of them side by side, and it's drastic, the pictures that they are showing you. And so you just have to really, it's a mind shift change, but really just focusing on fat loss and not the number on the scale. You can weigh yourself every single day, and it could literally do this every single day. And that is our body. That is normal. Like I said, it goes down to water, salt, carbs, muscle. So much goes into how much your body is weighing every single day.
Mm-hmm. And back to the calorie deficit. So the thing is, I didn't even realize, like, here I have been in the health industry for such a long time, and I didn't even realize that was how you lost weight. Like, And people don't realize that any diet out there really works because they put people in a calorie deficit. And a lot of them are very extreme. Like if you look at things like Optavia, I know family and friends who have done that, and it's like 800 calories a day. That's what I eat for breakfast when I wake up. I mean, it is really extreme. So it's like no wonder it works. But the thing is like marketing is such a great thing that these diet programs never tell you that it's a calorie deficit is why they're going to lose weight. Instead, they tell you like they have some special formula or something special. But the truth is, the reason why anybody loses weight is because they're eating less calories than their body needs, that calorie deficit. I did not realize that. I could not figure out why I was gaining weight. And the fact of the matter was, it wasn't some crazy, like my body was against me and my hormones were against me or all these like things that I thought I was a victim of. It was truly because I had never tracked food a day in my life. I had no idea what I was consuming. And even though I was eating healthy food, I was eating a ton of calories every day, way more than my body over the long term needed in order to maintain or to lose fat. And so being in a calorie surplus, eating more calories than my body needed, over years that took a toll and I gained weight and gained fat. And it was like, but I had no idea until I came to you, until I joined Faster Way. I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like this is the science. Like this isn't rocket science. This isn't some crazy thing. And if anything, it took that victim mentality away from me and it helped me be
Empower
incredibly
you.
empowered because now I'm like, oh, okay. Like, if I gain a little in the future, I know how to lose it. Like it's not, or, maybe I purposely gain like in a surplus because you want to put on more muscle, and we'll talk all about that later. But it's very empowering to know how fat loss works, how weight gain works. I mean, it's not like this mystery. And so it's an empowering, I think, lesson for anyone to learn going forward, especially in the society we live in today, where we're like so bombarded with food and everything else. So speaking of that, this strategy of like a calorie deficit in order to, lose fat, and like you said, it was a slight calorie deficit. You're not talking about anything extreme, like 800 calories a day, which is going to leave your metabolism in a wreck and starving, and long term, it's not going to be healthy.
Oh yeah.
Does this strategy work for any age, right? Because I think in this day and age, there's so many people on Instagram preaching to people like, oh, well, if you're a 60-year-old woman, then you need all of these supplements and all of this stuff, right? Or if you're like a 20-year-old, this is what's going to work. Like we have this idea that because maybe we're a certain age, that this idea of a calorie deficit for fat loss is not going to work for us, that we're victims and that there's so much things out of our control out there that, we're never going to be successful with losing weight because of age or whatever it is.
It literally will work for everybody. I mean, there is not one human on this earth that a calorie deficit will not work for. As you age, what that looks like might be different because it might come down to your activity level. A lot of times when you get older, and I think this happens, and that's why women, 40, 45, 50, 60, they think that they are gaining weight because of their age. And a lot of times it just comes down to you are less active as you get older. You don't have kids in sports. You're not running, playing in the yard as much. I mean, just so many things maybe you're not walking animals, your animals passed away, whatever it is like your activity tends to decrease the older you get, which makes gaining weight and eating in a calorie surplus a lot easier because you're just not active enough. So two things are going to play a huge role in fat loss and weight loss or losing, and that is your activity level and your nutrition. And I always tell people, look at your activity before you start taking food away, because simply adding in 10,000 steps a day could be the difference between burning 300 to 400 extra calories than eating more food and gaining weight. So if you want to lose weight, want to lose fat, look at how much you're moving. Make it a goal. If you're walking 4,000 steps. You need to be aiming for 7,000 steps. When you hit 7,000 steps, you need to crank it up a notch and probably aim for 10,000. Anywhere between 10 and 12,000 steps a day is a very good activity level to easily take you out of a calorie surplus without ever even reducing your calories, only because you just made yourself more active.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I found like I was having a hard time recently getting my steps in. So, people are like, well, this sounds like a lot of work. It's like, if you want change bad enough, you will figure out how to make it work. Like, sorry, you're going to have to probably track your food for a little while to bring awareness to what you're eating. Because if not,
You literally can't manage what you are. You can't manage what you don't know. And like, if people get so bent out of shape when you talk about tracking food, but let me tell you, your body's tracking the food whether you are, and your mind is actually tracking it whether you're writing it down or calculating it, because you're looking at a piece of a sandwich and you're like, I can't eat that. That's too many calories. You'll go to a restaurant and you'll look at something on the menu and you're like, I can't have that. That's too many calories. So your mind is tracking the calories, but you don't actually know how those calories would work in your body if you don't track what you don't know. So
and it gives you so much data. That's what I found. Like it's incredible. I know where my body maintains, where it doesn't lose, it doesn't gain. Sit around 2,300 calories currently. Maybe that will change in the future, right? But currently, that's really empowering to know, right? There are days when I don't really track these days, and I feel confident in what I'm eating because I pretty much eat the same things anyway. But yeah, even with steps, like I was finding I was having a hard time getting steps in. So I was like, you know what? I need to be proactive. I need to stop playing the victim here, and I need to figure out this is a priority for me, how I can make this work. And so I decided that first thing, I was also, Dustin's been traveling a ton and I was getting a little depressed in the morning too. And I was waking up and like looking at social media and everything. So I'm like, let's tie all this together. So I decided first thing in the morning when I wake up, I make myself my coffee. I have some carbs, and a little protein. And I go out the door, I put my shoes on and I walk the neighborhood with my coffee in hand. It's not anything crazy. I'm not speed walking. I'm not like, anything. I literally am holding coffee, walking the neighborhood and strolling. And I get about 4,000 steps in before 8 a.m. And you know what? Not only do I get steps in, like the anxiety that I was feeling in the morning and this like cloud of depression kind of a deal over me also lifted. It was incredible. Like I felt so good by making that one change. So many times I think when we feel stuck, and we feel like these victims, whether it's because of fat gain or, whatever it is, if you put in the work to figure out how to make it, how to do these things, it's going to take work. It's going to take tracking your food. It's going to take like hiring a coach to get you started. It's going to take, maybe going for a walk in the morning, changing your morning routine, waking up 30 minutes earlier to get that done. Whatever it is, you figure it out, right? It definitely is going to take actually implementing change in order to see a difference. Because if you just keep doing the same old, nothing is going to change. And that's why I took the step 3 years ago to change. And I find that it's a continual process, like you said, of movement and activity. Okay, so I know a lot of people are going to say, and I get messages all the time. I just got one the other day. It was like, listen, I did a calorie deficit. They even went through Faster Way, right? They're like, but it didn't work for me. Like 5 weeks in, I'm not losing anything. Like this doesn't work. What would you say to people like that?
So, it's so hard because, we don't know them. So we don't know, were you actually doing all the things? So first I would say that's where we have to look. We have to look at ourselves, because a lot of times it comes down to, are we really putting in the work? Are you doing 1 or 2 days and then going willy-nilly and then trying to start over? So look within yourself and see if there's something that you didn't do that you could change. The other thing is, people think they're going to see like these massive changes in 6 weeks. Like, you are not going to go from 160 pounds, and I'm just using that as an example, to who is somebody that looks, let's say I don't know, J-Lo, or we're not going to go from this extreme to this extreme in 5 weeks. Like, the change is going to be really subtle, and that's what you want. People sign up thinking, I see all these people making all of these claims of losing all of this weight and totally transforming in 6 weeks. And A, you don't know their journey. B, they're probably not telling you it was 24 weeks, 6 months. They could be literally showing you a client at day 1 and a client at 2 years. But if you look at somebody at 1 week and 5 weeks, there's not gonna be this like mind-blowing transformation. It's just not gonna happen. And sadly, that's when people will quit, because that's when they assume it's not working. And the biggest change, honestly, to me, like where I really see clients start to shift, is about 12 to 20 weeks, because they have started to just create these daily habits that are just a given. Their body has had time to adjust to what they're doing. I'm telling you, if you come from a low calorie diet to, or from a low carb diet to eating more carbs, more calories, it's going to take your body time to adjust. But if you don't stick it out, you're never going to know what could actually happen. Like, I always tell people who look at Kristin and they're like, that's who I want to look at, or that's who I want to look like. If she would have quit at week 5, because she didn't look that much different. Like, she didn't. And if she would have quit then, she would never be where she is today. She literally would probably be that same person that started on day 1.
Absolutely. And people can see that. I mean, I have a blog post, I'll link to it, I'll share it, right? That people can see. I literally document month by month my journey. And the difference between when I started in December versus January, 6 weeks later, was not that big of a difference. Like, I really didn't. I was happy because I had lost a little bit. I had never stepped on a scale during that time period, but you could tell via photos I had lost a little. I looked a little bit better, but not like nobody noticed. None of my family noticed. My own husband didn't notice. Nobody noticed, right? I mean, really, there was no massive change, right? It wasn't until, like, I would say probably, like you said, about 4 months in, that suddenly Dustin's like, oh, you're looking a little different. And like, family started asking, like, what are you doing? You're looking a little better. Like, your face is looking a little different. Like, you look different. I lost a couple sizes in clothes at that point, yeah. And if I had given up because I didn't see these results, because I had my own timeline on things. And the thing that is crazy to me is, like, it's not a linear journey. Like, it's not like, oh, like calories and macros, like they may need some adjusting, right? Like, what you set up for someone in the beginning, maybe that's not what their body responds to. Maybe you're gonna have to adjust it. Like you said, maybe you're gonna have to increase their activity level a little. It's a lot of playing around. People are so unique that it's like, that's where working with a coach like yourself is so valuable, right? Is not only the accountability and the support to be like, keep going, you got this, like, I'm here for you, but also the ability to be able to look at things from this very like data analytical standpoint and take the emotion out of it and be like, okay, you know what? So my body doesn't seem to be responding at like 1900 calories with losing fat. Maybe we need to increase your decrease your calories a little, or maybe you need to up your activity. Like, people just think it's like automatic given that when you give them these calories and these macros, that boom, 5 weeks later, they're going to be like this, like J-Lo, like you said, but that's not the way it works. It's like, You have to look at this. Do not sign up for like Sandy or Faster Way if you're in it for like 5, 6 weeks. You have got to be in it for the long haul. And if you are, like, it's incredible. I mean, seriously, like, I had to take some photos the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, like, who is this person? Like, the muscles in my arms and like I was so proud. 3 years ago, I didn't look at photos. Like, granted, everybody's like, well, love yourself the way you are. I loved myself. That wasn't the problem. It was just that I was like, this is not the, like, I know I can be a different version of myself. And today I look at that and I'm still building upon that. So absolutely.
Yeah. And that's like, and honestly, that is literally probably the most freedom you're gonna have, like when you can just break up with these like expectations of, this is what I want to look like now, this is the pant size that I want to be, and break up with that like negative connotation for what the journey is, and learn to like actually enjoy it. Like, learn to enjoy, oh my God, I'm eating so much food. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I feel so strong. Oh my gosh, like I feel confident walking on the beach, like if you look at it with like the joy that it brings, you're never going to stop. Like I said, I've been training for 20 years and I've had these ups and these downs in my journey. But the one thing that has never changed is I've never stopped. Most people on this journey that sign up with me have zero idea that at one point my 5'2" barely frame was 170 pounds. I was a size 12, and I started this journey when I was, thank God, 24, something like that, 24 years old. Because for so long, I just focused on being a mom, being a wife, and didn't put any time into myself. And I did not feel good. Like, I didn't have confidence. I didn't looking at another girl and being like, I'm never going to look like that. And that's literally why I started working out. It's because I wanted to feel better. I wanted to look good in a bathing suit, but I fell in love with the way that it made me feel. And it has kept me going for 20 years. And if you
Mhm.
can do that, it will change your life.
100%. Yeah. Like I'm the same way. I started out for aesthetic reasons and now I love the way I look, like I said. And I love the way my body continues to build. But it's like I feel good. Like this year with moving, I haven't talked about it a lot, but I went through a really hard time with like anxiety, a little depression and everything, and like not knowing people in the area. And honestly, working out is
How
kind
do
of what
you
saved.
feel walking into the gym and being like, I own this place?
Yes.
That's literally what I want people to feel like.
That was my sanity for half this year. If I didn't have that, I think I could have gone to a very dark place, right? I mean, like getting in, and now, like when I started, I was lifting like 10 pounds, and now getting in and I'm deadlifting like 200 pounds. And I'm like, oh my God, I am a bad, like, it's so like it feels so good to be strong. Like my kids joke around, like, "Oh, don't mess with mom," and I'm like, "Yeah, you better not mess with." But it feels really good. Like you said, you start for a reason, and then there's so many other factors that come in. I'm actually about to get my blood work back from my doctor, and I'm so excited to see how things are going to come out. Like I don't know, maybe things are perfect or whatever, but I feel good, and I know that's probably going to be reflected
Yeah.
in that. So it's like, yes, a lot of people start out for the weight loss, the fat loss, this aesthetics, but there's so much more that we don't really talk about. And I know we like show pictures and everything because so many people want to see that, but there's really a bigger picture that goes on with all of this in the long run with the journey.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. My husband we were military for 20 years, and kind of like you said, like starting over, going somewhere new, not having any friends. If I didn't have my gym and just someplace that I could go to just put into myself, I could have easily
Mhm.
just been sad and depressed and just felt like crap. Like, you just don't understand when you can change the way you look at that, how much better you feel on the inside. Not even necessarily the way you look, but just like inside.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So along the fat loss topic, I think a lot of people they might I think a lot of women have done diets before, right? I mean, I grew up 80s and 90s, total diet culture, right? My mom did Weight Watchers, everything else out there. And the women in my life honestly experienced weight loss. Like they went from, they sized down, they got smaller, all this other stuff. But what seemed to happen all the time is after a few months, they would gain the weight back, or maybe like a year later, they looked amazing and then they'd gain it back and then they'd gain more back, right? So there's this vicious cycle of, and maybe people are afraid to doing a calorie deficit for that reason, right? Is the idea of you lose fat, but then you're going to gain it back. So can you speak to this? Like, how do you make it sustainable? How do you lose fat in a calorie deficit, but not have that vicious cycle of constantly yo-yo dieting where you're losing, gaining more, having to now diet again?
That is kind of where that nutrition periodization, got it, comes in. So you want to get into a fat loss and or a calorie deficit, and you want to stay there. So that's when tracking your food and all of that knowledge and learning how to do that comes into play. So tracking your food for X amount of weeks, like I said, anywhere from it depends on goals and age and all these factors, but anywhere from like 8 weeks to probably 20 weeks is a calorie deficit, slight calorie deficit. Once you do that, your body, if you don't start increasing those calories, will adjust to those calories that you're putting in. So that's where your body is going to start maintaining. And if you simply just keep trying to go with those calorie deficit calories, those quickly become your maintenance calories. Now your metabolism has kind of downshifted because it's gotten used to those calories, and it's going to start maintaining there. And that's usually when people give up or they hit a plateau or they think this program isn't working for me anymore. All of those things begin to start taking effect. And that's when we need to shift what we are doing and start slowly increasing out of that calorie deficit for a little bit. It's not forever, but it depends on how much fat you have to lose and how long you need to stay out of that calorie deficit. When Kristin came to me, she was like, I'm getting hungry, my energy is low, maybe I'm not sleeping as good. And I'm like, okay, those are all signs that your body is giving you that it's kind of done with what it's doing right now, what it's eating right now. And we need to start increasing your food. When we started increasing her food, right at her maintenance calories right there. So she was still in a calorie deficit. She started seeing more fat loss. She started getting leaner. And so she was still actually losing fat because she hasn't built up to those maintenance calories. You do that a couple cycles, but then you start getting to your maintenance calories, where then the goal is to just get stronger and start building muscle. Hang out there for some time, build your metabolism back up, get it used to eating more calories, get your muscles to grow, your sleep can improve, like all these things will improve. Then when it's time to go back into a fat loss, you're not having to lower your calories that time as low as you did the first time, because now you have built your metabolism, you have made it stronger, you've made it more flexible, you've made it to where when you take a couple hundred calories away, you're going to start seeing fat loss again. So maybe you started this journey and your calorie deficit was 1,500 calories. That next time you do it, it might be 1,650 calories. That feels more sustainable than 1,500 calories. And so it's these cycles of eating less to lose fat, upping your calories to maintain and build, and do that over time until you've reached that ultimate goal of where you feel confident, where you can maintain your weight without being so food sensitive and scared, where you can enjoy life, you can enjoy parties, and you can get back on track, and you simply maintain what you have been able to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's where that I cannot say, that periodization of nutrition comes into play. And I didn't realize that. And that's where most diet programs out there, like we said, most diet programs work. I'd say all of them work because they put you in a calorie deficit. That's all it is. It's not rocket science.
What you do after is what is going to be the difference between keep going and maintaining versus gaining it all back.
Precisely. Yes. And that is what the missing piece is for so many people, I think, is one, most of them get put on these extreme calorie deficits and diet programs. So of course they lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks. I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks if I only eat 800 calories a day too. I mean, most people are going to. But at the same time, and they're going to lose muscle and they're going to lose fat and they're going to lose water and all these things, which make the scale go down. But then what do you do after that? How do you sustain that, right? And then people, like you said, their metabolism is a wreck by the time they're done, because let's say
And they
they're
don't
able.
have as much muscle. And muscle
No.
is going to keep your metabolism going. And that's what you have to concentrate on. You want to lose fat, not muscle. If you can lose fat and maintain your muscle, you're going to have a lot easier time maintaining what you've lost. So and this is what, when you're aiming for a weight, you should not be losing less than a pound a week. If you are losing less than or more than a pound a week, you're losing muscle.
Wow.
And so, people are like, oh my gosh, I lost 5 pounds in a week. And you might have, but if you go the next week, you might only lose half a pound. And that is like the sustainable, but losing 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 pounds a week is not sustainable long term, because I promise you that is all muscle. And if you lose muscle, you are not going to look fit. You are not going to look strong. You are not going to look toned. You're going to just be a lighter, flabbier version of yourself than before.
Yeah. And that's what I found. I've talked about this on social media. Last year, I got down after a calorie deficit to my lowest weight. I was like 118, 19 pounds, right? Super small. I mean, I look at pictures and you can see them online on the blog, and I'm like a teenage boy. I had nothing. And granted, I had built up a little bit of muscle because I was a newbie, even in a calorie deficit, first time lifting weights, kind of, to be expected. But I quickly realized that this goal weight that I had in my head of 120 pounds,
Look good.
it was not the body that I expected. And I quickly realized that weight loss was not the end all be all, that there was something to be said for having muscle on your body. And this toned look that so many women want comes from having a lot more muscle on their body, which requires eating at maintenance for a while and not just constantly dieting. So regarding building muscle, because that's such a big topic. And I hear so many people, and this was me, I was like, I want to lose fat and build muscle. I'm going to do both of these things at one time. I'm just going to be like Superwoman, right? And it's going to happen in 6 weeks and all these,
like, I want to lose fat, I want to tone up, I want to build muscle, and I want to.
Exactly. I live in Miami now, the land of bikinis, right? I had the big lofty goals right now.
Yeah.
But so can people build muscle during a fat loss calorie deficit phase? Can you talk about, you're saying you don't want to lose your muscle, right? But what if people are like, well, I want to do both. How do I do that?
Okay. So 2 answers. If you've never lifted weights in your life, or you've lifted, small weights, like, gone to an aerobic class and you're doing 2 and 3 and 5 pounds or whatever, and you switch to strength training where we are focused on heavier weights. So if you're a complete newbie, it's possible. It's called newbie gains. It's very possible. And that can last anywhere from like 6 months to a year. But at about a year, you're not going to be able to do both at one time. I will use myself quickly as an example. I am by no means a newbie in the gym and strength training whatsoever. Like I said, I've been doing it for 20 years. When I turned 38, I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, dang, I don't look like I've been working out for 20, well, at that time it wasn't 20 years, but 15 years, whatever it was. I don't have that definition. I don't have that muscle. I just looked skinny and lean. And fun fact, when I
Same here.
joined Faster Way, I was 38. And when I looked at myself 2 years later, I was still focused on the wrong things. And I just looked small. I looked frail. I had skinny legs. I mean, like I had no butt, and that vision in my head, that's not what I wanted. Like I wanted to be toned and muscular without being too muscular, but like I wanted to look fit and healthy, and I didn't. Like I had that goal weight of 100. I need to be 110 pounds and build muscle. My body could not do that. And all I was doing, eating to maintain 110 pounds, was chipping away at my metabolism, was chipping away at the muscle that had took me years and years and years to build. And my body started using it to keep itself alive. And so when I turned 40, I was like, forget it. I am going to do opposite of everything that I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I just turned out the noise and I started focusing on eating more. Like that required me to do several cycles of surplus because I did not weigh enough or have enough muscle on my body or eating enough calories to be able to build. So I had to get myself out of that rut and start being able to build. I look at pictures for myself from 40 to 45 in 2 weeks, and I have completely changed the way my body looks, and I am postmenopause. So ladies, you literally can build the body you want without hormones. I had crappy hormones, no testosterone, you name it. I was going through it from about 34 to about 40. And I'm a postmenopausal now, and I've been able to build muscle because I'm eating enough and my body is using those calories to build and sustain muscle.
So I'm hearing you say, yes, if you're new to all of this, lifting weights, like let's say you joined Faster Way, you're following the strength program, like I had never lifted weights in my life, no idea what I'm doing. I saw a little bit of gains. I mean, nothing crazy. I didn't get bulky, but I got stronger. I clearly was putting some muscle in my body and losing fat at the same time in a slight calorie deficit. Now, when you say slight calorie deficit, you're not talking about like a huge slash. It's a very slight little slashing of calories. The goal is to eat as much as possible to lose weight and lose fat, not to eat as little as possible. Like that's not the goal here. So that's where you put me. You gave me my custom macros, my custom calories based on all the intake that you took from me, based on like activity level, age, yada, yada, yada. You ask new clients, all of this information. You gave me my calories and macros. I followed them, and I was able to build a little bit of muscle, get stronger, and lose fat. But like you said, about that year mark, that's where it was like, nope, this ain't working anymore. And that's when we really started. It was actually about 9 months in. And that's when we started increasing my calories. Cause like you said, I had all these signs there, and I was scared to death when you told me to increase calories. I was like,
Oh,
no.
I was too.
Like, I'm not eating more. I was so petrified, like in my mind, that I was going to gain everything back,
Everything.
lose all the progress. And it was a mental battle, which nobody talks about. And I started doing, and that's where having a coach and not doing this on your own is so valuable. Like the $79 I spend a month to have you there in my back pocket, so to speak, on my shoulder, being like, you can do that. You're good. Look at
Yep.
those pictures. Look at you're fine. Like, you got this. Let's go. And we'd increase my calories a little more until we got to that maintenance range where my body wasn't losing, it wasn't gaining. And it was really sitting where it needs to be. Over the last year, in a year time period of doing that, sitting at maintenance, I have gained around 7 pounds. I mean, I stepped on the scale recently. I'm like, oh my gosh. The crazy thing is my clothes all pretty much fit the same, except they fit better in certain areas. Like waist wise, they fit the same, but in my booty, they fit a little bit different. My legs, they like in a good way, right? Not a bad way. And like, I feel stronger. My face is clearer. I look great. I look healthy and vibrant eating at maintenance. And even though I weigh more, my body composition looks better than ever. I mean, Dustin was home a few weeks ago and we were up at the pool and he's like, Kristin, you look incredible. I was like, thank you so much. I felt good. I was at the grocery store the other day and this lady goes, she ID'd me because I was buying a bottle of wine. And she's like, what is your secret? Like, how in the world were you born in 84?
You're like muscle.
Exactly. So I think there's so much to be said for not trying to be your leanest little self, right? As far as like weighing as little as possible, for putting on muscle, and to really focusing on eating enough. Like you said, you actually were eating more than your body needs to maintain, and purposely to put on muscle. Like, that is such a, to most women. It's like, what?
And like, I'm telling you, from age 40 to 45, I have gained 12 pounds. But guess what? I still put clothes on that I had 5 years ago and they still fit. And like Kristin said, they just fit better in certain places. I fill out the booty better. My waist isn't any bigger. My legs feel a little tighter, but I still fit in the clothes that I was wearing at 110 pounds, at 125 pounds. I still wear the same clothes, and that is because of muscle. Your muscle does not weigh more than fat. I know people get that confused all the time. They're like, muscle weighs more than fat. No, 5 pounds of fat, 5 pounds of muscle weighs 5 pounds. However, in your body, 5 pounds of muscle takes up like this amount of weight or room, whereas 5 pounds of fat is going to take up this much. So you can change your body composition without losing a single pound when you're focusing on building muscle.
So then if people, let's say they transition out of that calorie deficit and they're eating at maintenance, which eating at maintenance simply means you're eating the amount of calories that your body needs to maintain, right? Yeah. Okay. There's nothing magical happening. You're not going to experience.
That does not mean you have to gain weight. People think of maintenance and like, oh, I got to gain 5 pounds. No, like, you want to maintain where you lost. So what are you having to eat to maintain where you currently are?
Okay. So really, in order to build muscle in the long term, people do have to spend some time eating at that maintenance phase.
Oh yeah. They're going, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to. Like, it doesn't matter if your goal is 5 pounds, 100 pounds. You're going to have to eat at maintenance along that journey.
And I think that's where, there's so many coaches out there, macro coaches, nutritional coaches, right? And anybody can help you lose weight, whether it's in Faster Way or whatever program out there, right? Because anybody can set you up in a calorie deficit, it seems like. But
you can Google it yourself.
Precisely. You can use an online calculator and figure out your calorie deficit, do it for 12 weeks, boom, I guarantee you'll lose some things, right? But it's that long-term sustainability that is really where your expertise has come in. And what does this look like in the long term? We're not after just a 6-week goal. We're not after a 12-week goal. Where are you going to be 5 years down the road? And I think that's where people miss the bigger picture in all of this. So can you kind of speak to that? Like, how does someone find a good coach to help them go through fat loss and building muscle? Obviously, I'm a huge advocate for you. Like, you have you've changed the game for me. You've helped me not only with obviously the physical side of calories and macros, which macros are just macronutrients. We've talked about this in our previous interview, which is, protein, fiber, carbs and fats. And it's important that your calories are broken down to make sure you're getting nutrients from all of those, because your body needs those. But you have helped me not only with that, but also the mindset, the accountability, all of that. So how does somebody find a good coach to help them through this and cut through the noise of everybody out there being like, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you?
So, I hate to say this, but like, you want to look at somebody's education and their knowledge outside of their own journey, I guess, if that makes sense. Just because somebody lost 50 pounds on a program does not make them an educated person to teach you long-term sustainability, and how to maintain. Just because somebody did that themselves doesn't mean that makes them knowledgeable to help you. So I think looking at education is important. Looking at, like, has this person been doing this for a long time? Those are two things. The other thing that I think this is kind of what makes me different. I don't care how successful my clients are in the 6 weeks. I don't care. Like, I don't care if you lose 0 pounds. What I want to see is you building a lifestyle and continuing on that journey. Because honestly, that continual journey is going to be where you see the most success. And kind of like how Kristin was saying, like, her mind shift over the last few years. Like, I guarantee you, if you ask Kristin now, would she ever quit? And her answer is going to be hands down no. Like, there's nothing that would make her stop working out, eating, enough for her body, putting herself first, taking care of herself. There's nothing that you could make her do that would make her stop. And that's literally what I want to teach people, is not this success in 5 and 6 weeks. I mean, anybody can do that. I want to see you successful in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 12 years down the road. That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm. And it's that sustainability. I've talked about this before, but we went, my husband works for the news. We went to Paris this summer for the Olympics. I spent 3 weeks there with him, and my mission was a pastry a day. I ate a stinking pastry a day. I was bound to find the best pastries in Paris. I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I maintained the last 2.5 years didn't go out the window because I did that, right?
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you a funny story about that. Yeah. And this is where a good coach comes in. Kristin comes home and she's like, I think I need to do a calorie deficit. I think I have to. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. Just get back on track and watch what happens. And I think it was like 2 weeks later, she's like, yeah, no, I don't want to do a calorie deficit now.
It is so crazy because, yes, in fact, I was just thinking that the other day, because you would you were so graceful with me, and you're like, let's check back in January, right? Because you knew my goal, like I was kind of making fun of other people's, is like, I want to lose fat and build muscle. I'm like, I want to build my legs and booty, but I want to do a calorie deficit. And you're like, that's kind of like opposite of what you want to do here. So you're like, let's wait until January and check back in. Well, the crazy thing is now that we're back home and I'm back in, like, tracking my nutrition and everything, I'm like, January, maybe, but maybe not, because I'm really happy with what I'm building. And honestly, now, like, I took photos when we got back from Paris. I take photos like once a month at this point, just to have for my record. It's really helpful. And I look at the photos from when we got back from Paris, almost 2 months ago versus now. And like a lot of it was just water retention, I think, from eating like more carbs and everything else like that. I was feeling a little puffier and everything. So yeah, that's where having a really good coach comes in handy and that's why it's worth
I mean,
it.
I'm telling you, I have talked to so many people who, if they don't have a coach that will talk them down, that won't just agree with them and just do because they want, you're not going to be successful. There are so many times I have clients who are like, I need to be in a calorie deficit. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like that is not your long-term goal. That is not what you need right now. You need somebody who's going to tell you no. Like if you go to your coach and you're like, I'm not losing weight, and you're eating 1,500 calories and they lower your calories, run, 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 run. Because that's not what you need. So I have a lot of clients who will message me and think they need to go into a calorie deficit because they went on vacation, because they are going on vacation, because they something. And I'm like, no, you actually don't. If you want to feel strong, if you want to look toned, maybe we tighten up your nutrition. Maybe it's looking at what you're eating. I was recently in Florida and I am very consistent in my nutrition. If people will ask me, do you still track? I do. Am I perfect all the time? Especially when I'm in maintenance and surplus? Not perfect. Fat loss, always perfect. Because I want to get in, I have a goal, and then get out. But in maintenance surplus, I'm not perfect. There are days that I'm off there. I mean, I might eat out more. So I was in Florida for 6 weeks. By no means perfect. I was in maintenance and I started pushing myself into a calorie surplus because I started watching it and I was like, forget it. I'm going into a calorie surplus. I'm going to enjoy where I am. And we're at the time of the year where I'm wearing pants, I'm wearing sweatshirts, I'm wearing leggings. If I'm going to get a little puffy, this is going to be the year that this is the time that I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it in a way that is going to ultimately help me reach the goal that I'm really after and chasing. And so I went with it.
And it's so empowering, circling back to what we first were talking about with fat loss, to know that if you do gain some fat, right, purposely, right, because maybe you're trying to put on more muscle more quickly, right, and you're going to gain a little bit of fat along the process because you're in a little slight of a surplus, eating more calories than your body needs. It's okay because you know how to lose the fat, and then you're going to reveal this muscle underneath that you have also built when you go into a calorie deficit, which is going to be the short time period of a fat loss phase. You're going to exit out of that and go into maintenance, and that's really where you're going to spend most of the time. It's so empowering. It's like so simple and so empowering to know how to periodize your nutrition this way, and that there's not all these, like, you don't have to buy into gimmicks. You don't have to, it's like so simple no matter your age and whatnot. So then lastly, okay, so you're a coach in Faster Way. So Faster Way is just, always tell people, Faster Way is not anything like crazy magical. It's literally just a program that takes everything as far as what you need to be doing and packages it up in a nice little like package with a bow, right, at a very affordable price. That's why I love it and recommend it, because it gives you the weekly strength trainings that are programmed with progressive overload. So you're getting stronger over time, right? It gives you the coach as part of the program. And as part of Faster Way, you get to choose what coach you work with, right? Everybody's following like the same strength training programs and everything, which is phenomenal. But then the customization comes in, and the fact that you get an individual coach that you are working with. So that would be, say, you or somebody else. Can you kind of speak to, I think a lot of people, one, are fearful of Faster Way because there's all these other elements that they hear about, like fasting and low carb days and all of that, which I don't do any of that, right? At this point, nothing. And I know other people, like other clients of yours, don't. So it's very customizable. The foundation's there, which is strength training and eating enough for your goals. But outside of that, you can kind of customize it to what you like or what you do need or don't need. But then
Mhm.
also there's so many coaches out there. So why work with you if people are going to join Faster Way? Like what makes you set apart and different?
I kind of touched on it earlier, but like I said, I've been doing this for 16 years. So it's not something that I just randomly signed up for and decided I'm going to be a coach. This is something that I have been passionate for 20 years because I've seen the way it changed my life. I joined Faster Way because just what Kristin said, it was like, oh, this ties everything that I already teach people into one package, easy to use, but then you get me somebody who has years of education between fitness and nutrition to guide you, where not everybody has that same knowledge and experience. So I do think that is what sets me apart from many other coaches. But it teaches you, it gives you that foundation. So the carb cycling, the intermittent fasting, and all those things. But what I take into consideration is the individuality, the hormones, the goals, the it could be Hashimoto's, it could be anything. I take all of that into consideration when when I set you up for your macros with the fasting. I know I'm going to quickly touch on that because I know so many people think fasting and they panic.
Yes,
And
it's the biggest, it's the biggest objection I hear from people. Like, I want to join,
and you
but the
know
fasting scares me to death.
and you know what? I actually like that. I like that not eating scares you because that's what I want. I want the not eating to scare you. And if I was to be completely honest, the fasting is the least important to me as a coach. Also, I individualize fasting. So most, I would say 95% of my clients do not fast the entire 16 hours. That is the recommended for Faster Way. Again, I'm looking at all of the things that you have going on and your goals and your focus and what's best for you. And I'm going to tell you where to fast. People call it fasting. I call it digestive rest or sleeping.
Mhm. That's what I
And then,
do. I literally stop eating after dinner. Sometimes I'll have a snack before bed, maybe if I like have had a really intense day of like training legs or something and I'm starving. I'm not going to ignore that at this point in maintenance, right? In a calorie deficit, it's different, but in maintenance,
yeah.
I'm not going to ignore that. And then I sleep, get my digestive rest. I'm not eating. I wake up the next morning and I eat. Like, and guess what? I've maintained. I'm not gaining.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's not like, it's not this like scary thing where if the fasting is not what it makes you lose weight. It's really not. It's just in overall, it's a calorie deficit. So fasting is one piece of it. Carb cycling is one piece of it. And you're going to start out, you're going to get those individual fasting, your carb cycling, and all of those things. As your journey changes, those things might have to change. Kristin started out doing 2 HIIT days. Kristin started out only doing 3 strength days. She was fasting for 16 hours. She was doing carb cycling. Now she fasts for 12 hours. She does 5 days of strength training. She does all regular macro days. You want a coach who knows how to customize things as you move forward, who doesn't only get tunnel vision. You have to fast for 16 hours. You have to do low carb every Monday and Tuesday. You can't do more than 3 days of strength training. Simplified results and maintaining is going to take changing as you grow in this journey. And that's going to look different. What you start out on day 1 is going to be what you're doing on day 465.
Amen. Yeah. And that's why people who start and they're like, so what are you doing now? I'm like, listen, I started out learning all the strategies that you're learning. I started out in a calorie deficit for fat loss. I started doing 2 times HIIT, 3 times strength, everything that Faster Way teaches, right? They're phenomenal strategies to learn. I love the fact that I know how to do carb cycling and everything. I love that I know how to track macros and everything. There are times like this summer where I made sure I hit my protein, but I was a little off in fat and carbs, and I just hit my calorie goal, right? At this point, 3 years in,
Calories.
exactly. 3 years in, I have had a coach who has taught me how to customize what I've learned and keep the foundations there. Strength training, movement, like walking, hitting my calories. Those are the like the foundation. And from there, you can build these cool little strategies, these cool little rooms of things that you can like open the door when you need it and use them and whatnot. And Faster Way teaches you all these cool little strategies you can implement. But other than that, like that's what I love about Faster Way is the foundation is there. You get the coach if you have a good coach like yourself who can actually help you customize so that it's long-term, the sustainable lifestyle, you know? Okay, so I love that. Now we got a bunch of questions. A lot of them we've already hit on, things like when should you do a cut, for how long? We talked about all of that, but a few of them we haven't hit on. So let's just like kind of rapid fire go through these. These are from people on Instagram that submitted questions. Okay, so one, speaking of building muscle, we didn't really touch on protein, but in the last time we talked a lot about macros. Again, macros are your calories are divided into your macros. So like protein and carbs equal 4 grams or 4 calories. Correct me.
Yep,
Go through
calories. Yep.
real quick what they are. Yeah.
Okay, so protein is 4 calories per gram. Carbs, 4 calories per gram, and fat, 9 calories per gram. So a little just gee whiz, a lot of people eat a low carb diet and think that they're doing like this magical thing, cutting out carbs. Calories from fat are like double. So
Yes.
you can quickly take yourself out of calorie deficit eating healthy fats, because calories are calories at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you are eating 50 carbs and all these healthy fats. If all of those healthy fats add up to a calorie surplus, you're going to gain weight on
That
those.
was my problem because I consumed a ton of butter and a ton of stuff like that, olive oils and things back in, years ago. And while, like I said, I was eating healthy, but I couldn't figure out, I think I was causing myself to be in a calorie surplus because I ate so much fat, and I realized I ate very little protein and very little carbs. So tracking these macronutrients, they all add up to what your calorie goal is, right? It sounds complicated. It's very, very simple. And something like the Faster Way app does all the calculating for you. Once you give, somebody their macros, they're naturally hitting their calorie goal. It's very, very simple to use. So that said, I wanted you to break that down because if somebody's like, wait, why are we talking about protein suddenly? So somebody asked, do you have to eat so much protein to build muscle? They hear like, hit your protein. Do you have to eat so much? I had a message the other day, like, Kristin, you eat so much protein. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, trust me, I could eat way more protein. It's just some Greek yogurt in the morning, some eggs, like some chicken at lunch, and maybe like a burger at dinner. Like, it's not that much. But when you eat very little protein, it may seem like a lot of protein to someone.
So I will say most women eat under or around 68 grams of protein a day, like the average woman. So when you take that average woman who's only eating 68 grams of protein, Kristin probably eats that in one meal, in like a snack. So, and it sounds hard or intimidating at first. And that's why, we start you at a certain protein, that is feasibly hittable. But over time, we want to try to increase that, because the more protein that you eat, the more muscle your body can maintain. So yes, protein is important. If we want to kind of just simplify it a little bit, the absolute bare minimum that you should be eating is 100 grams. But let me tell you, if you weigh 150 pounds, you want to try to shoot for the math is anywhere from like 0.7 to 1.4 grams of carb or protein per body pound. So, that could look at like 100 grams of protein to like 150. But the more protein that you can eat, the more muscle your body is going to build, but it's also going to maintain. So protein, yes, is very, very, very important. But there's a window. And when Kristin started, she probably was only eating about, I would say 110 grams of protein. And over the years, she's been able to increase it. I am like where I have my protein at 130 to 135. I have to watch because I could easily get 150 to 160 grams of protein like that without even thinking about it. And that's just from years of prioritizing it and knowing the foods that will get you the protein. So it sounds scary, but it's not in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah. So someone asked, how do you set macros when you're actually not ready to incorporate weightlifting yet? Would your macros be different?
Not necessarily. No. Like, I mean, if you still have like a fat loss goal, you still have to be in a calorie deficit. It doesn't matter if you're lifting weights. I always will have clients be like, I'm having surgery, so I'm not going to be able to work out for 6 weeks. Do I need to lower my calories? No, you don't. If you're in a calorie deficit, you're in a calorie deficit. So you don't really necessarily need to adjust your macros or your calories based off you're not strength training. Movement is going to be important. So, calorie deficit again comes down to how much calories you're burning versus how much you're putting in. So if you're not ready to strength train yet, but you still want to lose fat, you need to be in the calorie deficit and you need to be moving your body.
Yeah, I had surgery in April. I wasn't able to strength train for 6 to 8 weeks afterwards. And I just ate at maintenance. I didn't change my I talked to you. I'm like, what do I do? And you're like, eat at your maintenance, hit that protein to maintain muscle. And within like 2 weeks, I was cleared to go walking, and I was slow walking. I was like, Dustin's a slow walker, and he was home with me to helping take care of me. And I'm like, reel it back, man, reel it back. Like that's how slow it was, right? So we're not talking anything like power walking. And I did not gain, like nothing changed. I got back in the gym 8 weeks later, slowly built back up. I mean, it was fine. So yeah, that nutrition is so key, whether you're hopefully you are strength training and lifting weights at some point. Like,
and hopefully over time, I can change your mind because
yeah,
I'm telling you,
yeah.
you're going to feel better
Exactly.
if you do.
And the longer you put it off, the more consequence I feel, because women start losing muscle mass in their 30s. And if you just keep pushing this off, like, I'm gonna get to it next year, I'm gonna get to it next year. Like I have a family member who this year had to have major surgery in her 60s because she's very lean and frail. And I think the loss of muscle over the years has caused a lot of issues that she's now having. Seeing that was a really good example to me of like, this is why forget how my body looks.
My whole family, like, I mean, I look at like my grandmother who's still alive in her 90s, but all the things she can only sit in a chair. Like her life is in a chair. I don't want to be like that. I'm going to be 90 years old deadlifting. It might be only 100 pounds, but I'm still going to be deadlifting. But you want to age, like, I cannot
you want to age well, not just live long, age well.
You want to retire healthy. Like you want to work your butt off all of your 20s and your 30s and your 40s to retire when you're 60 and be sick and living I mean, you're talking the majority of your life you're living is in your midlife, and you want to like age healthy and age well so you can travel and enjoy your grandkids and not be in a nursing home and bedridden and in a chair and falling downstairs. Strength train. It will change everything for the future.
And that's why I also recommend Faster Way and people join, because it's like, if you just try to strength train on your own, you're going to not know what to do, right? I don't know what to do. And follow a program. Follow a program that you can implement, right? And that's the beauty of Faster Way, is I was able to learn how to strength train, fall in love with it. Like, it feels intimidating if you're not following a prescribed program that gives
If
it
you
to
just
you.
walk into a gym and you're like, I don't know what to do in here, that's intimidating. And that's when people are going to quit. When I first started, I hired a trainer because there was no Faster Way. There was none of these apps online. I don't even think there were cell phones. I'm pretty sure there was. I don't even know. If there was, I couldn't afford one. And
You're
there
only
surely wasn't
21. What are you talking about? You're not old enough for that.
like there wasn't social media and all these things that so like I was like, I want to do this, but I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I had to hire that so I could learn, because I would have walked into a gym and turned right around and left.
Precisely. So we touched on this, but real quick, just to emphasize, this person asked how to lose fat with exercise limitations due to an injury. Can't use my right arm for the next few months. So if the goal is losing fat, and it would be a calorie deficit, right? It comes down to nutrition. It's all about nutrition.
Not working out. Working out is not what makes you lose fat. It is literally your nutrition. Your nutrition is going to be the foundation of, are you maintaining, are you losing, or are you gaining?
Yep. Yep. So somebody else said, I have not been tracking. Do I have to restart with my macros? It's been a long time.
Why? Why? Like, if you haven't been doing your tracking and you already have macros, that's where you start. You have to have a solid foundation for at least 4 weeks of tracking where you already are, or, what are we changing? So that's the first thing, is start
That's
tracking.
data, right? It's like data
Yeah.
to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, like, okay, like, let's say 1,800 calories, your body is responding to at 1,800 calories. But if you're not tracking, then you have no data to go on.
You don't know if you're eating 1,800 calories. You could be eating 1,400 calories and think that you're eating 1,800 calories, or you could be thinking that you're eating 1,800 calories and you're really eating 2,500 calories, because it could be like, one day you're eating 1,800 calories, then the next day you're eating 2,500 calories. So you need data of, if you're supposed to be eating 1,800 calories, that's where you start, and that's where that's your starting point. Do that for 4 weeks, and then let's find out what needs to be adjusted.
Okay. Yep. So a few people wanted to know, they said they're trying to build muscle, they're maybe eating in maintenance. How do they know when it's time to do a cut? And let's see, and for how long would that cut look? We kind of already talked about this. You talked about it's like 8 to 16 weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, well, so it just really depends on where you are in your journey. So like somebody, for me, I probably wouldn't have to do, but anywhere from like 8 to 10 weeks. Somebody like Kristin would probably be the same, 8 to 12 weeks. So it depends on where you are in your journey. However, you don't have to do a fat loss. If your goal is to build muscle, and that is what you want to do that for quite a while. Like, building muscle is hard. Here's the thing, losing weight, losing fat is actually easy when you have the foundation. Whereas building muscle is so much harder, is so much more work, and is so much longer. So you don't have to do a fat loss. Like, there's no, oh, I've been building for 12 weeks, it's time to go into a fat loss. No, like, you don't. You could do that for 2 years, for 3 years. You could live in maintenance and build muscle. And so it just really depends on, do you have fat to lose? B, do you want to do a fat loss? Maybe you have, I don't know, a 40th birthday. You're like, I want to look rock solid on my 40th birthday. So then you've been working, building and maintenance for a while, and you want to do a small cut for that 10 weeks. Awesome. So it really is like, it's no, you have to do a fat loss. It's what do you have going on in your life? What is your goals? And that's kind of where you choose. But fat loss is not a mandatory you have to do, whereas maintenance is a mandatory to build muscle.
Like I could never do a fat loss again and be perfectly fine. I might see, we didn't touch on this, but body composition changes. I'm not losing fat, but like my body looks different.
It's constantly changing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might not, and maybe that's like the long-term goal is you don't go through, you've lost, the fat that you wanted to initially, but now you're just going to focus years on maintenance, building muscle and seeing your body slightly change out. I mean, it's amazing what body composition I'm finding can do for you when eating at maintenance and lifting heavy weights and getting stronger. Yeah. So somebody said, let's see, where are we at? My body just doesn't want to burn fat. Any thoughts? We kind of touched on this already. What like people, and I get messages like this all the time. Like my body just doesn't want to give up the fat. I'm like the anomaly here in the fat loss.
You are not special. You're not special. Your body will lose fat when you have the strategies set up correctly and you can stick to it long term. What's probably happening is they're probably slashing calories, not being able to stick to it long term, and they're just doing this week after week, weekend after weekend. Whereas if you could just flatline for a minimum of 12 weeks, you're going to lose fat. You literally will lose fat. Like there is not a human on this earth that a calorie deficit does not work for. What those calories look like is probably different one person to another. For instance, I'll use Kristin. She eats 2,300 calories at maintenance. My calorie surplus is about 21. I think I'm at 2150. So I'm gaining weight at 2,150 calories, whereas Kristin is eating at 2,300 calories and she's maintaining weight. And it literally just comes down to age, hormones, muscle, height, so much goes into that. But the calories might look different from you. But if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose fat.
So someone else said, hey, I'm not working with a coach. I don't really want to work with a coach. Like, how would I set my own macros and calories? You can do it, right? But there is something to be said for the accountability, the support, and the being able to tweak based on data and getting out of your own head. I think that is so valuable for me, at least in my own experience of having a coach. So can somebody set their own macros and calories without a coach and be successful with fat loss and maintaining?
I mean, you can. Like, I will tell you, like, I mean, I can easily go set my macros and do a fat loss myself and be accountable to myself. But here's the thing, most people can't, and they will tend to think they're not seeing results and then drastically try to cut their calories again. They don't know when to come out of that. Like having somebody to just be a voice of reason. And I will tell you, like, you're not going to find another program that's more affordable from Faster Way from a standpoint of everything that you get. I mean, I have paid thousands of dollars monthly for somebody to stay accountable to for different pieces of journey. Like, I mean, I've done figure competitions and just had different goals, and I've paid thousands of dollars for the
Because you did
things that,
bodybuilding, right? At one
yeah,
point.
yeah. So yeah, and that sounds scary, but again, it's not. We are not, as women, we are not going to look like Arnold. Like you physically would, you would have to take a lot of things to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger as a female. You know, no matter how much you lift, how long you've been doing it, you are never going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger as a man. So when you say bodybuilding, people are like, oh my God.
Yeah. I want to preface that because you're like thousands of dollars. And I'm like, there's a reason why she did that.
Yeah.
Like it was a,
So, but like coaching, like from a standpoint of what you get in the faster way, as far as the workouts, the nutrition, the app, and all of the things in this one bow tie for $250 for the 6 weeks, and then $79 a month, to have somebody to go to and be like, am I doing this right? Is this the next step? To just be able to have that sounding board is, like, to me, it's a no-brainer, because I feel like people are so much more successful if they have somebody that they can just turn to and just get verification from, just to get a tweak or whatever, encouragement. It literally could be, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? And just for help. Like, I mean, could you do it on your own? Yes, there's a plenty of apps, there's plenty of things to do on there. Are you going to struggle on your own? I mean, it's a possibility. It because it's very hard to do something on your own, especially if you've been trying to do it for years and years and years on your own. If it hasn't worked yet, why is it going to work now?
100%. Yeah. Because there's tons of online calculators, My Fitness Pal, there's, I don't know, all sorts of things. Just Google it and they're there, right? They're all out there. But, and honestly, at this point, like almost 3 years in, I have gained so much knowledge from you and sitting under you and learning and everything that I could probably maybe adjust my calories and go into a fat loss phase or whatnot. But
So
like you,
awesome.
yeah, it's amazing. Like I have the knowledge there. I'm not paying necessarily at this point for that aspect, but I love the fact that, you know, it's the strength training program is part of it and that's worth it. But really knowing that I can reach out to you, like after Paris, when I reached out to you and was like, I'm going to cut. If I was on my own, I would have cut, right? And I probably would have been unhappy and all sorts of things. But like having that accountability is worth it, to be able to go to you and be like, I'm going to cut. And you're like, let's talk about this. And so yes, I think having a coach is valuable. It's almost like paying for insurance, so to speak, even in maintenance, because you have somebody to turn to and to be able to have that like accountability and support. Okay, so two last things. One said, how does hyperthyroidism affect the Faster Way program? I know a lot of people say like, hey, I have hormone issues, or I'm menopausal, or I have hyperthyroidism. Like, obviously we're complex beings, right? People have things going on. So how does that affect programming when you have clients coming in?
So like I do the client survey and I ask like those medical questions. And that is just, I mean, I will tell you, it doesn't matter like what kind of medical condition that you have, learning how to fuel your body for your goals is not bad for anybody. Will we adjust the fasting? 100%. Will we adjust the carb cycling for you? 100%. So there's different things that have to be adjusted. But that's the same thing. I get it all the time from like people that are even postpartum that are breastfeeding and they're like, can I do this? Absolutely. Like there is no human on this earth that fueling your body correctly, strength training, and getting the knowledge of nutrition that is not going to help. So it's just a matter of just like fixing and customizing things. But yes, you can still do it.
And that's the value of working with a coach who actually has expertise in education versus somebody who just joined based on their own experience. Because I get a lot of times questions from people who are like, oh my gosh, you share so much. You'd make a great coach. Are you going to become a coach? And I say, no, because I have a wonderful experience and I have gained so much knowledge for myself, but I don't have the education background to be able to go in and help people like this, right? With their custom needs and everything else. And that's really where having an expert on your side is so valuable when choosing a coach. I know enough that I'd be dangerous for someone else.
You like, I have enough knowledge that I can really mess you up.
Exactly. I can help you with breakfast, not necessarily the rest, Okay, okay, so I don't quite understand this question. Maybe you can help me. Do you understand this question? Sandy, do you ever feel about packing it in? Do you understand that question?
Like packing it in, like giving up on my journey, or packing it in as a coach? I'll
I
answer
don't
that.
know. It was one of the questions that somebody asked you, and I'm like, maybe you know how to interpret that one.
So here, I mean, okay, would I ever pack it in, quit?
Oh, pack it in like quit?
That's what
Okay.
I'm thinking. So no, like, no, I would never quit where I'm at. I think I feel too good. I look too good. There's no reason that I would ever quit this journey. Like, and you can't. Like, if you are starting something with an end date in mind, you're never going to be successful. Whatever you did to lose the weight, to lose the fat, that has to become a lifestyle. And that's why I think so many people start these quick fix diets and shots and supplements and all of these things to lose weight. But once they stop, they don't have the foundation to keep going, and they gain it all back. But I mean, you have to do something that is going to keep you going forever. So whatever you do, you have to continue to do it. It's not this is a 5-week thing. This is a 50-year plan. So no, I would never quit, because I think I would go crazy. And would I ever quit coaching? I mean, no, I love doing this. I love seeing people change their lives. I love getting messages from clients telling me how good they feel, how strong they are, how much more weight that they're lifting, how they don't feel intimidated when they go to the gym, how they feel good on vacation and in their clothes. Like, all of that keeps me going. Like, I will tell you, when somebody's like, I lost 5 pounds, I'm like, woohoo. When somebody's like, I lifted 200 pounds, I'm like, yay. Like, that's the stuff that I like to see, because I know at the end of the day, that's going to make you feel better than just, I lost 5 pounds.
And that is going to give them the long-term sustainability too.
They're gonna love it, like that. And like, that's when I say, like, when I see people like Kristin, I mean, I have, I will tell you, I have clients that are not successful, that are always starting over, but I know what they have going in their mind, and it's this: I want to lose 5 pounds, I'm not losing 5 pounds, I'm not seeing results. And I have clients that are like Kristin, who are like, I've lost the weight. What do I do next? This is what I'm doing. I have my eyes set on a goal, and I just keep getting better, and I keep building a lifestyle that I fell in love with.
Yeah, I love that. I tell Dustin all the time, like, you better be ready for the 50, 60-year-old that I'm going to be. Like,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I honestly watched my friends all turn 40 a few years ago, and in the dread and the horror that they all felt. Like, it was insane.
Wait for I'm 50. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. When I was like, I told Drum, because my 45th, I'm like, I don't really feel anything special about 45, but like, going to 50, I'm like, that's gonna be like cool.
Absolutely. And I feel like the older you get, and the fact that you're like strong and like, that is something to take pride in, because in our society, that is not something most people feel is something they can accomplish, right? They feel like aging is a death sentence in a way, and we're all going to die, right? We all are going to end up with issues or whatnot, but why not try to make it the best you can, right? And be strong and be agile and be able to, not like be stuck to being in a chair or something the rest of you. There are things you can do now, eating enough protein, fueling your body appropriately, lifting weights, that are all going, it's like depositing little dollars in the bank. It may not look like a lot now, it's not very exciting, but over time, the compound,
You're going to be
investments grow.
so glad you did 20 years from now.
For sure. Like I said originally, I was the biggest skeptic 3 years ago. I came into this saying this will not work. I am broken, basically. And thank God that I just took the first step. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to track food. I didn't know about macros. I didn't know about strength training. I didn't know the heaviest I'd ever lifted weights was 5 pounds. My groceries weighed more than 5 pounds. The cooler I had to pick up on the weekend weighed more than 5, but I was so intimidated. I didn't know anything. Today, I'm over here like, I'm going to go to the gym later. I'm like, let's back squat 180 pounds today.
Yeah.
Like, there's something so cool about just taking that first step, not really knowing anything, and just being like, hey, we'll see if this works for me. And you might find that you love the process.
Yeah. And I will tell you, like, a lot of people probably, if they follow me on social media and I share the things that I'm doing, that I think that it can feel intimidating because you see me lifting these heavy weights, and that's not where I started, and that's not where you start. Like, you start where you're physically able, not comparing yourself to Kristin or to me. But that's the cool thing, is like, over those years, you do get stronger and you are able to lift heavier, and and that should be the goal. Is maybe I can't do
Absolutely.
that now, but in 2 years from now, I can.
Yep, absolutely. Well, this has been so good. Long per usual. I expected that because we have so much to talk about. There's just so much. I feel like there's so much confusion out there, and my heart hurts for women when I get messages who are so confused because they're like, what about this? What about this? What about, they're like grabbing all of this stuff, reaching for it. And it's like, guys, it's really not that complicated. Like, you don't need to be chasing all of this stuff. Like, if you love those things and you want to grasp onto those things, by all means, but really it's a very simple thing. There's fat loss, calorie deficit, maintenance, building muscle, eating at maintenance, lifting weights, having a good coach to support you. So I just wanted to be able to clear the air, kind of, because again, that's where I was years ago. I felt confused, right? And it's so empowering when all that lifts and you're like, oh, it's only a few simple things that kind of move the needle, repeated over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's just like, you have to quiet the noise. And I will say, like, you'll see people on social media saying, fasting is bad, fasting is good, carb cycling is bad, carb cycling is good, low carb is bad, low carb is good. Like, you're going to hear all of this. If you're on social media, you're going to hear the negative and the positive. But if you can literally get it down to the 4 things that really matter and just stay focused on those 4 things, you will see results. Like, you will.
Absolutely. So I'll put a link in the post for people to sign up with you. How can they join? How often do you have to go through a 6-week round to begin with, like kind of like kindergarten? You learn everything, right? And then you can use those building blocks to keep going with you. So how do people join a 6-week round? How often do you do them?
So if you're following Kristin, you can use her link. I think she always has that link available, and I have around, it's usually about every 2 weeks. As we head into the holiday seasons, those might change a little bit, but it's about every 2 weeks I try to start a new round. And so, yeah, it's always pretty simple. And the awesome thing is, if you do sign up for a round that doesn't start for 2 weeks, you get access. So, like, you can get a taste of the workouts. You can kind of start playing with the app and getting used to it. And you get all of that for absolute free from the moment that you sign up. So even if I don't have a round starting, until your round starts, you have access. So you can start doing the workouts. You can start tracking your food. You won't get your custom macros. So what you see in the app probably won't be correct, but you can even just kind of start experiment. Maybe you want to cook some of the recipes. So you have access even before we start.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. And then once you actually start the round, you'll email them, get their info, the intake and everything, give them their custom macros and calories and move on from there. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.